I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and the way I ended up on this path was from a very tragic event. I was maybe 19, and my girlfriend at the time was killed in a car accident. And I passed the accident, and I didn't know it was her, and I kept going. And I found out shortly after that it was her. And I was living in a basement apartment. I had no money. I had no heat, no air. I had a mattress on the floor, and the apartment was infested with fleas. And I was soul searching. I was like, why is she suddenly gone and there are fleas here? I don't understand. There must be a purpose, and wouldn't it be so convenient if we could just pick up the phone and call God and ask these questions? And I started writing, and what poured out of me was an imaginary conversation with God, which was one-sided. And I finished writing it, and I looked at it and I said to myself, and I hadn't even been doing stand-up ever. There was no club in town. I said, I'm going to do this on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. At the time, he was the king. And I'm going to be the first woman in the history of the show to be called over to sit down. And several years later, I was the first woman in the history of the show, and only woman in the history of the show, to sit down because of that phone conversation with God that I wrote. And I started this path of stand-up, and it was successful, and it was great, but it was hard because I was trying to please everybody, and I had the secret that I was keeping, that I was gay, and I thought if people found out, they wouldn't like me, they wouldn't laugh at me. Then my career turned into, I got my own sitcom, and that was very successful, another level of success, and I thought, what if they find out I'm gay, then they'll never watch, and I finally decided that I was living with so much shame and so much fear that I just couldn't live that way anymore, and I decided to come out and make it creative, and my character would come out at the same time, and it wasn't to make a political statement, it wasn't to do anything other than to free myself up from this heaviness that I was carrying around, and I just wanted to be honest. And I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I can lose my career. I did. I lost my career. I got, the show was canceled after 6 years without even telling me. I read it in the paper. The phone didn't ring for 3 years. I had no offers, nobody wanted to touch me at all. And yet I was getting letters from kids that almost committed suicide but didn't because of what I did. And I realized that I had a purpose, and it wasn't just about me, and it wasn't about celebrity, but I felt like I was being punished, and it was a bad time. I was angry, I was sad, and then I was offered a talk show. And the people that offered me the talk show tried to sell it, and most stations didn't want to pick it up. Most people didn't want to buy it because they thought nobody would watch me. And really, when I look back on it, I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, it was so important for me to lose everything because I found out what the most important thing is to be true to yourself. And ultimately, that's what's gotten me to this place. I don't live in fear. I'm free. I have no secrets, and I know I'll always be okay because no matter what, I know who I am.
The fear of failure was a big one in the beginning. Because what happened to me was, I was 27 years old and I was like miserable. And I just kept trying to figure out what my life was for. Because I discovered something, that the two most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you discover why. And at 27, I just hadn't figured out the why. And I walked into a comedy club October 8th, 1985. First time ever in a comedy club. Didn't even know comedy club existed. I actually went there on a dare. A girl dared me to go to this comedy club because she knew I was funny. I won amateur night that night, October 8th, 1985. I went to work the next day and quit my job. I won $50 and I went to work and quit my job. The day I quit, my boss, as I put my box on his desk and told him I was leaving to be a comedian, he talked me right out of it. He said, "Steve, you're not even funny." He said, "I've never heard you say anything funny since you've worked here. I've been selling insurance for 2 years." He said, "Are you kidding me? You've got a family. You put that stuff back on your desk and I'll give you your job back. But don't you ever come in here again with something ridiculous. You're gonna be a comedian." I took all my back to my desk and put that back on my desk. dude named Russell Middlebrooks came up to me and said, "Hey, Harv, I thought you was quitting today, man." I said, "Nah, I talked to Tom and he told me I wasn't funny." He said, "He don't know you." He said, "Dog, you the funniest dude I know." He said, "Man, see," and then he looked at me, he was so hurt. He said, "Damn, dog, I told everybody you was leaving today." He said, "Man, I can't believe you letting that tell you what to do." And he swole me back up because I had been deflated. And I took that box right back in there. I said, "Tom, hey man, I'm really funny, I'm gonna make it." He said, "I'll tell you what, you leave out this door, don't ever come back in here again." So I tried to shake his hand. I said, "I'm not shaking your hand." I said, "You're making a huge mistake leaving your family out like this." He was right, I became homeless. And I made a big mistake. And was right. I became homeless. I lived in a car for 3 years. Probably about 20 years after that, he was at a show. And he said, "I came to the show, I saw this Steve Harvey." He said, "I couldn't believe it was you." He was backstage, he said, "Oh my God, I always knew you were gonna make it." I said, "Man, me and that dude, man." But that was, overcoming that was my biggest. And none of my family believed in me. The only family member I had that thought it was a good idea was my father. Because my father was really funny. He just grew up in a time for blacks that was very different. And he just said, "Son, if you think you can make it, get on out there and get discovered." My father was born in 1914. It wasn't good. My grandfather was a slave. My grandfather was born into slavery. My grandfather was a slave till he was 12. So my background of people becoming successful was like, and my dad was the only one believing me. Everybody else told me no, laughed at me.
Where most children are proof of their parents' love, I was the proof of their criminality. The only time I could be with my father was indoors. If we left the house, he'd have to walk across the street from us. My mom and I used to go to Joubert Park all the time. It's the central park of Johannesburg. Beautiful gardens, a zoo, a giant chessboard with human-sized pieces that people would play. My mother tells me that once when I was a toddler, my dad tried to go with us. We were in the park. He was walking a good bit away from us, and I ran after him, screaming, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." People started looking. He panicked and ran away. I thought it was a game and kept chasing him. I couldn't walk with my mother either. A light-skinned child with a black woman would raise too many questions. When I was a newborn, she could wrap me up and take me anywhere. But very quickly, that was no longer an option. You see, I was a giant baby, an enormous child. When I was 1, you would have thought I was 2. When I was 2, you'd have thought I was 4. There was no way to hide me. My mom, same as she'd done with her flat and with her maid's uniforms, found the cracks in the system. It was illegal to be mixed, in other words, to have a black parent and a white parent, but it was not illegal to be colored, in other words, to have 2 parents who were both colored. So my mom moved me around the world as a colored child. She found a creche in a colored area where she could leave me while she was at work. There was a colored woman named Queen who lived in our block of flats. When we wanted to go out to the park, my mom would invite her to go with us. Queen would walk next to me and act like she was my mother. And my mother would walk a few steps behind like she was the maid working for the colored woman. I've got dozens of pictures of me walking with this woman who looks exactly like me, but who isn't my mother. And the black woman standing behind us who looks like she's photobombing the picture, that's my mom. When we didn't have a colored woman to walk with us, my mom would risk walking me on her own. She would hold my hand or carry me, but if the police showed up, she would have to drop me and pretend I wasn't hers. I felt like I was a vagabond.
You start to learn about how races interact with each other and how races treat one another in a country. And that happened to me when I went to my first public school, when the teacher said to me, "These are your tests to come into the school, these are your marks. You should go to this class." I went to the class, it was only white kids, and I didn't think it was abnormal until I went to recess, and then there was a flood of black children that came out of nowhere, and I was like, "Where are you guys from?" And they were like, "Oh, we're in another class." And I was like, "Well, I feel like I want to be in that class. I understand your languages, I connect. Where the hell are you?" And then my teacher said to me, "You can't go to that class because that's not the smart class. You want to be in the class you're in." And she said, if you go there, the rest of your life may not go in the direction you wanted to. And I chose to go into the black class, and I'm sitting next to Oprah now.